Wait, what if I told you that one small tattoo hidden on a stranger's wrist could unlock a secret someone died trying to protect? Lena was just a tired waitress, working late nights, barely surviving, trying to forget the past. But everything changed the moment she noticed something no one else did. A symbol, faded, strange, and impossible to ignore. At first, it looked like nothing, but then her heart dropped because she had seen it before. Not online, not in a book, but in her father's notebooks. The same father who spent years chasing a mystery everyone thought was madness until the day he died without answers. And now, that same mystery was sitting right in front of her, on a stranger's wrist. When she finally asked him about it, his reaction said everything. He tried to hide it. He told her it was nothing. But then he heard her father's name. And in that moment, everything changed. The man went silent. His face turned pale. And what he revealed next would pull Lena into a secret world of hidden codes, mysterious symbols, and a map that leads to something people were never meant to find. Something her father was as close to uncovering, but never could. Now the question is, did her father leave the final piece behind? And if he did, why her? Why now? And what happens when they finally follow the map and discover the truth? Because some secrets are not just hidden, they're protected. And once you find them, your life will never be the same again. So watch till the end, because this isn't just a story about a tattoo. It's about a truth that was waiting for the right person to see it. It was just another quiet evening, until one small detail changed everything. The neon sign outside the diner flickered softly, casting a pale glow onto the nearly empty street. Inside, the air was warm, filled with a comforting scent of coffee, grilled sandwiches, and something sweet baking in the oven. It was the kind of place people came to forget their problems, if only for a little while, but Lena couldn't forget hers. She moved quickly between tables, balancing plates with practiced ease, her tired eyes scanning the room for the next customer who might need something. She had been working double shifts for weeks now. Ever since the rent increased, she barely had time to breathe, let alone think about anything else. Her life had become routine. Wake up, work, smile, repeat. Even her smile had started to feel automatic. Table 3 needs refills. Her co-worker called out. Got it, Lena replied, forcing energy into her voice. She grabbed the coffee pot and walked across the diner, her shoes making soft squeaks against the polished floor. At table 3, an older couple thanked her kindly, but their voices felt distant, like background noise in a life she was simply passing through. That's when the bell above the door rang. Lena didn't think much of it at first. Customers came and went all evening, but something, she couldn't explain what, made her glance up. A man had just stepped inside. He paused near the entrance, as if adjusting to the light, his eyes scanning the diner slowly. He looked ordinary, mid-30s, maybe a little older, dark hair, slightly unkempt, a worn-out jacket that had clearly seen better days. But there was something about him that didn't sit right, not in a dangerous way. More like he didn't belong anywhere, like he had been traveling for too long, without a destination. Lena watched him for a moment longer than she should have. Then she quickly looked away, shaking off the strange feeling. Just another customer, she whispered to herself. The man walked quietly to the corner booth, the one most people avoided because it was tucked away, half hidden in shadow. It was the kind of seat chosen by people who didn't want to be seen. He sat down without a word. Lena grabbed her notepad and headed over. As she approached, she noticed the small details. His hands rested on the table, rough and slightly scarred. His posture was tense, like he was always ready to leave at a moment's notice. "Hi," she said gently. "What can I get you?" The man looked up. For a brief second, their eyes met, and Lena felt a strange chill run down her spine. His eyes weren't angry. They weren't even sad. They were empty, like someone who had seen too much and decided it was easier to feel nothing at all. "Coffee," he said quietly. "Sure. How do you take it?" "Black." She nodded and turned away, but something about that moment lingered. She couldn't quite explain it, but it stayed with her as she walked back to the counter. "Corner booth?" her coworker asked. Yeah, Lena replied absent-mindedly. Good luck. That one looks like he hasn't smiled in 10 years. Lena gave a faint smile but didn't respond. She poured a fresh cup of coffee and returned to the table. As she reached over to place the mug in front of him, the sleeve of his jacket shifted slightly, and that's when she saw it. A tattoo. Small, faded, almost hidden. At first, it didn't seem like anything special, just a cluster of lines and shapes. But something about it caught her attention instantly. Her eyes locked onto it. It wasn't a design. It was structured, carefully arranged numbers, symbols, lines intersecting in a way that didn't feel random at all. It looked like a code. Lena's hand froze midair. For a split second, the entire diner seemed to fade away. The sound of plates, voices, even hum of the refrigerator, all of it disappeared, because she had seen that symbol before. Not in passing, not somewhere vague, but somewhere deeply familiar. A memory flickered in her mind. Her father sitting at his desk late at night, papers scattered everywhere, his voice filled with excitement as he tried to explain something she barely understood. Some marks aren't just marks, Lena, he had said once. They mean something. They point somewhere. Her heart started to race. No, it couldn't be. She blinked, trying to focus. Maybe she was just imagining things. Maybe it was just a random tattoo that looked similar, but the more she stared at it, the more certain she became. It was the same pattern, or at least incredibly close. The man noticed her hesitation. Slowly, he pulled his sleeve down, covering the tattoo. Something wrong? He asked, his voice calm but cautious. Lena snapped out of it. And no, she said quickly. Just careful, the coffee's hot. She forced a small smile and stepped back, but her mind was spinning. She walked quickly to the counter, placing the coffee pot down a little harder than she intended. You okay? Her coworker asked, raising an eyebrow. Yeah, Lena said, though her voice wasn't convincing. Just tired. But that wasn't the truth. Not anymore, because something had just shifted. She glanced back at the corner booth. The man sat quietly, staring into his coffee like it held answers he couldn't find anywhere else. And on his wrist, hidden beneath his sleeve, was a symbol that felt like it had been waiting for her. Lena swallowed hard. Her father had spent years talking about something he called the mark, a symbol he believed was connected to something bigger, something important. She never took it seriously. Not really. Until now. Because somehow impossibly, that same mark had just walked into her diner. And deep down, Lena knew one thing for certain. This wasn't a coincidence. It was the beginning of something she wasn't ready for. Something that was about to change her life forever. Lena couldn't ignore it. No matter how hard she tried to focus on her work, her mind kept drifting back to the man in the corner booth, and more specifically, to what she had seen on his wrist. That symbol, that exact pattern. It kept replaying in her head like a loop she couldn't turn off. She wiped down the counter, refilled sugar jars, and took orders from new customers. But everything felt mechanical now. Her body was on autopilot. But her thoughts were somewhere else entirely. Back in her childhood, back in her father's cluttered study, back to all the things she never truly understood. If you ever see it, Lena, it means the truth is closer than you think. His voice echoed in her mind so clearly it almost made her stop breathing. At the time, she had laughed it off. She was younger then, too caught up in school and friends to care about strange symbols and hidden meanings. Her father had always been a little different. Brilliant, yes, but consumed by ideas no one else seemed to understand. She used to think it was just an obsession. Now, she wasn't so sure. Lena glanced over her shoulder again. The man hadn't moved much. He sat in the same position, one hand loosely wrapped around his coffee mug, his gaze distant, as if he wasn't really seeing the diner at all. What if it's just a coincidence? She thought. But even as the idea crossed her mind, it felt weak, unconvincing, because deep down, she knew what she saw. And more importantly, she knew what it meant. Her heart started beating faster. She had two choices. Ignore it and continue living her small, predictable life. Or ask and risk opening a door she might never be able to close again. Lena took a deep breath. Then another. Her fingers tightened around her notepad as she made her decision. I have to know, she whispered to herself. Before she could lose her nerve, she turned and walked straight toward the corner booth. Each step felt heavier than the last. When she reached him, she hesitated for just a second, then spoke. Excuse me, she said gently. The man looked up, slightly surprised. For a brief moment, neither of them spoke. Then Lena pointed, carefully, cautiously, toward his wrist. That tattoo, where did you get it? The reaction was instant. His expression changed. Not dramatically, but enough. His eyes sharpened, and without a word, he pulled his sleeve down, covering the tattoo completely. It's nothing, he said quickly, almost dismissively. But Lena didn't move, didn't back away, because now she was sure. That wasn't the reaction of someone with a meaningless tattoo. That doesn't look like nothing, she said softly but firmly. The man's jaw tightened. It's just something from a long time ago, he replied. Doesn't mean anything. Lena studied his face. He wasn't angry. He wasn't offensive in a loud way, but he was hiding something. She could feel it. My father used to talk about that symbol, she said, her voice quieter now, but filled with something deeper. He spent years trying to understand it. Silence. The words hung in the air between them. For the first time, the man really looked at her. Not just a glance, not just polite attention, but a long, searching look, as if he was trying to read something in her face. Your father, he said slowly. What was his name? Lena hesitated. She wasn't sure why, but saying his name suddenly felt important, like it carried weight in this moment. Daniel Hayes, she said. The effect was immediate. The man leaned back slightly, his face going pale. For a second, he didn't say anything at all. Then he let out a quiet breath, almost like a laugh, but without humor. I don't believe this, he muttered. Lena's chest tightened. What? She asked. What is it? The man ran a hand through his hair, clearly shaken. Then, slowly, deliberately, he rolled up his sleeve again. The tattoo was visible once more. This time, Lena didn't look away. Up close, it was even more detailed than she remembered, lines intersecting with precision, small numbers etched between symbols. It wasn't random. It couldn't be. This, the man said quietly, tapping the tattoo with his finger, isn't just a tattoo. Lena felt her pulse quicken. Then what is it? She asked. He looked at her again, carefully, like he was deciding how much to say. Finally, he spoke. It's a map. The word hit her like a shockwave. A map? She repeated. He nodded. Yes, but not the kind you're thinking of, he said. It doesn't lead to a place you can just find on Google. It's more complicated than that. Lena's mind raced. A map. A symbol her father had spent years studying. A stranger who knew his name. Nothing about this felt normal anymore. A map to what? She asked, her voice barely above a whisper. The man didn't answer immediately. Instead, he glanced around the diner, as if making sure no one else was listening. The low hum of conversation continued, but no one seemed to be paying attention to them. Still, he leaned in slightly. To something your father was very close to finding, he said. Lena's breath caught. Her father, all those late nights, all those notes she never understood. You knew him? She asked. The man hesitated again. Not personally, he said, but I knew of him. Lena felt a strange mix of emotions rising inside her, confusion, curiosity, and something else. Hope, the kind she hadn't felt in years. My dad, he never figured it out, she said quietly. He died before he could. The man's expression softened. For the first time, there was something human in his eyes. Something real. I'm sorry, he said sincerely. He was closer than most people ever got. Lena swallowed hard. Closer than most? What does that mean? She asked. The man exhaled slowly, as if he'd been carrying this story for a long time. It means, he said, that whatever he was searching for, it wasn't just in his head. Lena stared at him. Her entire life, she had wondered if her father had been chasing something real, or just an idea that consumed him. And now, this stranger was telling her it was real. All of it. Her voice trembled slightly as she asked the next question. Then why are you telling me this? The man held her gaze. Because, he said, I think your father left something behind. Lena's heart skipped a beat. What do you mean? She asked. He didn't look away. I think, he said slowly, that whatever he couldn't finish, he paused, then finished the sentence in a way that changed everything. He left for you. The world around Lena seemed to shrink. The soft chatter of customers, the clinking of plates, even the hum of the old refrigerator behind the counter, all of it faded into the background. It was as if the entire diner had been reduced to just one small corner booth and the man sitting across from her, Marcus, a stranger just minutes ago, now somehow connected to her past in a way she never could have imagined. Lena slowly slid into the seat opposite him, her legs feeling unsteady beneath her. For once, she didn't care about her shift or manager or the growing list of things she was supposed to be doing. None of it mattered anymore. Start from the beginning, she said, her voice quiet but steady. I need to understand what's going on. Marcus studied her face for a moment, as if weighing her readiness. Then he nodded. All right, he said, but once I tell you this, you can't unhear it. Lena didn't hesitate. Tell me anyway. Marcus leaned back slightly, lowering his voice. Years ago, he began, I was part of a small group. We weren't official, not government or anything like that. Just people with shared interests, codes, hidden patterns, things most people overlook. Lena listened closely, her attention locked onto every word. We started noticing something strange, Marcus continued. Symbols appearing in different places. Not random graffiti or tattoos, but consistent designs. Structured, intentional. Lena's eyes flickered to his wrist. The mark, she whispered. Marcus gave a small nod. That's what some of us called it, he said. Each version of the symbol was slightly different, but they all followed the same underlying pattern. What pattern? Lena asked. Marcus reached for a napkin and grabbed a pen from his pocket. He began sketching quickly, lines intersecting, small numbers placed at precise angles. Lena leaned closer. Even without fully understanding it, she could feel it, the structure, the logic. This isn't art, Marcus said. It's information. He circled a section of the drawing. These numbers, coordinates, not always exact on their own, but when combined with other symbols, they form a path. A path to what? Lena asked again. Marcus hesitated, then answered, to something hidden. The word sent a chill down her spine. Hidden where? She pressed. Everywhere, he replied. Different locations, different cities, sometimes even different countries. Each mark points to a piece of something larger. Lena tried to process it. So it's like a puzzle? She asked. Exactly, Marcus said. And your father, he was one of the few people who realized that early on. Lena felt her chest tighten. My dad knew all this, she asked. Marcus nodded. He didn't just know, he said. He was ahead of us. Lena blinked in disbelief. That's not possible, she said. He worked alone. I never saw anyone with him. That's what made him different, Marcus replied. Most of us worked in groups, sharing information. But your father, he kept digging on his own. And somehow, he started connecting pieces faster than we did. Lena's mind flooded with memories. Her father sitting at his desk late at night. Stacks of notebooks filled with strange drawings. Maps pinned to the wall. And that look in his eyes, the one she never fully understood. It wasn't obsession, she whispered. Marcus shook his head. No, he said. It was discovery. Lena felt something shift inside her. For years, she had quietly wondered if her father had been chasing something that didn't exist. Something that pulled him away from the real world. But now she realized the truth was the opposite. He had been closer to something real than anyone else. What was he trying to find? She asked. Marcus leaned forward slightly, lowering his voice even more. We never knew for sure, he admitted. There were theories. Some believed it was money, hidden assets, offshore accounts, things like that. Lena frowned. That doesn't sound like him, she said. Marcus gave a faint smile. It wasn't, he agreed. Others thought it was something bigger. Like what? Marcus paused, then said carefully, information. Lena's breath caught. What kind of information? She asked. The kind people don't want found, Marcus replied. Records, secrets, things buried so deep they were never meant to surface. Lena felt a wave of unease. Why hide it in tattoos? She asked. Because it's invisible, Marcus said. Think about it. People see tattoos every day. They don't question them. They don't analyze them. It's the perfect place to hide something in plain sight. Lena looked down at the napkin again. Now it felt different. He wasn't exaggerating. This wasn't random. It was deliberate. So the tattoo you have, she said slowly, it's one piece of that puzzle. Marcus nodded. Yes, and there are others out there on different people in different places. And my dad, Lena began, her voice unsteady. He was trying to connect them? Not just connect them, Marcus said. He was getting close to completing them. Lena's heart started pounding. How close? She asked. Marcus met her gaze. Closer than anyone else ever has. The weight of his words settled heavily between them. Lena leaned back, trying to absorb it all. If this was true, then everything she thought she knew about her father was incomplete. He hadn't just been researching. He had been solving something. Something big. So what happened? She asked. Why didn't he finish it? Marcus looked down briefly. We don't know, he said. One day, he just stopped communicating. No updates. No new findings. It was like he disappeared from the search. Lena's throat tightened. He didn't disappear, she said softly. He got sick, and then he was gone. Marcus looked back at her, his expression filled with regret. I'm sorry, he said again. Lena nodded, but her mind was already racing ahead. All those notebooks. All those years. What if he didn't stop? She said suddenly. Marcus frowned slightly. What do you mean? What if he kept working on it? Lena continued. What if he just couldn't finish in time? Marcus's eyes widened slightly. Then he would have left something behind, he said. Lena felt a sudden rush of realization. Her apartment, that old box, the one she hadn't opened in years. Her father's notes. Her breathing quickened. I have them, she said. Marcus leaned forward instantly. Have what? His notebooks, Lena said. Everything he was working on, I kept it all. For the first time since they started talking, Marcus looked truly energized. This could be it, he said. Lena, this would be everything. She stared at him, her heart racing. Everything. The answers. The truth. Her father's unfinished work. All of it within reach. But why me? She asked quietly. Why would he leave it for me? I don't understand any of this. Marcus's expression softened. Because you're the only one he trusted, he said. And whether you realize it or not. He paused, letting the moment sink in. You might be the only one who can finish what he started. Lena sat there in silence, the tired waitress with unpaid bills. The girl who thought her father's work was just a mystery she'd never understand. Now standing on the edge of something much bigger, something real, something waiting. And for the first time, she wasn't just part of the story. She was the key to it. That night didn't feel real. Lena walked out of the diner with Marcus beside her, the cool air hitting her face like a wake-up call. The neon lights behind them buzzed faintly, but for the first time in years, she didn't feel trapped by that place. She felt pulled towards something unknown. They didn't speak much as they walked. The silence wasn't awkward. It was heavy. Both of them were thinking the same thing. This changes everything. Lena's apartment was only a few blocks away. A small, modest space above an old convenience store. Nothing special. Just a place to sleep, to exist. But tonight, it held something far more important. As she unlocked the door, her hands trembled slightly. Are you sure about this? Marcus asked quietly behind her. Lena paused. For a second, doubt crept in. Opening that box meant reopening a part of her life she had tried to move on from. The memories, the unanswered questions, the quiet pain of losing her father without ever understanding him. But then she remembered the tattoo, the map, the truth. She pushed the door open. I have to be, she said. They stepped inside. The apartment was dimly lit, a single lamp casting soft shadows across the room. It was simple, Just a couch, a small table, and a bookshelf filled with things she barely touched anymore. But her eyes went straight to one place. The closet. She walked toward it slowly, as if each step carried weight. Kneeling down, she reached into the back and pulled out a small, worn cardboard box. Dust clung to its edges. Time had almost forgotten it. Lena stared at it for a moment. "This is it," she whispered. Marcus stepped closer, his attention fully locked on the box. "Open it," he said. Lena hesitated, then slowly lifted the lid. Inside were her father's notebooks. Dozens of them, some thick, some thin, all filled with pages of handwriting, sketches, numbers, and symbols. The familiar sight hit her, like a wave of emotion. She picked one up carefully, running her fingers over the cover. "I haven't looked at these in years," she said softly. Marcus didn't respond. He was already flipping through one of the notebooks, his eyes scanning the pages rapidly. At first, there was silence, just the sound of paper turning. Then, "This is incredible," Marcus breathed. Lena looked at him. "What is it?" she asked. He turned the notebook toward her, pointing at a page filled with symbols. "He figured out the sequence," Marcus said. "Look at these markings, they're not random. He grouped them, organized them." Lena leaned closer. Now that she was really looking, she could see it. Patterns, connections, things she had never noticed before. "He was mapping it," she whispered. "Yes," Marcus said. "And not just mapping, decoding." Marcus grabbed another notebook, flipping through it faster this time. "Coordinates, cross-references. Lena, this is years of work," he said. "He didn't just get close." He looked up at her, eyes filled with amazement. He solved most of it. Lena felt her breath catch. "Most of it," she repeated. Marcus nodded. "There are still gaps," he said, turning a few more pages. "Missing pieces. But this is the foundation we never had." Lena sat down slowly on the couch, her mind racing. All this time, the answers had been here, in her home, within reach. "I didn't understand any of this," she said quietly. "I thought it was just scribbles." Marcus shook his head. "No," he said firmly. "This is brilliant. Your father wasn't just chasing a mystery. He was uncovering it piece by piece." Lena looked down at the notebooks again. For the first time, she didn't see confusion. She saw purpose. She saw her father. "What are we looking for exactly?" she asked. Marcus took a deep breath. "That's the final question," he said. "All these symbols, all these coordinates, they lead somewhere." "Somewhere like a location?" Lena asked. "Not just a location," Marcus replied. "A destination. Something hidden. Something protected." Lena's heart began to pound again. "And you think these notebooks can take us there?" Marcus met her gaze. "I don't think," he said. "I know." The room fell silent. Lena leaned back, trying to process everything. Her entire life had been small, predictable, safe. But now she was standing at the edge of something enormous. Something her father had dedicated his life to. "What happens if we find it?" she asked. Marcus hesitated. "I don't know," he admitted. "But whatever it is, it's important enough that someone went to great lengths to hide it." Lena nodded slowly. That much was clear. She looked around her apartment. The same walls, the same furniture, the same quiet space she had lived in for years. But it didn't feel the same anymore, because she wasn't the same anymore. "I can't go back to how things were," she said softly. Marcus didn't respond. He didn't need to. They both knew it was true. Lena stood up, walking over the window. She looked out at the dark street below, the faint glow of streetlights stretching into the distance. For so long, her world had felt small. Now it felt wide open, uncertain, dangerous, even, but also meaningful. She turned back to Marcus. "What do we do next?" she asked. Marcus closed one of the notebooks carefully. "Now," he said, "we follow the map." Lena took a deep breath. Fear flickered inside her. But it didn't stop her, because for the first time in years, she felt something stronger than fear. Purpose. She looked at the box of notebooks one last time, then back at Marcus. "I'm in," she said. No hesitation. No doubt. Marcus gave a small, knowing smile. "Good," he said. Because once we start, there's no turning back. Lena nodded. She understood that now. The quiet life she had been living, it was over. The tired waitress struggling to get by, gone. In her place stood someone new. Someone stepping into a story much bigger than herself. A story her father never got to finish. But she would, no matter where it led, no matter what it revealed. Because somewhere out there, the truth was waiting. And this time, someone was finally coming to find it.